Near mint condition, the home of collected editions.
That cover's so awesome.
This is Mr. Chris Claremont, a legend.
Melanie goes,
Tired.
how's it going, everybody? This is the Uncanny Omar from Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. And today, I'm going to give you an advanced look at one of the most anticipated omnibus releases of the year. This is the Marvel Team-Up Omnibus Volume 1 from Marvel Comics. So let's take a look at this book together. And welcome back, everybody. Before going any further, a big thank you to David Gabriel and the fine folks at Marvel for sending us an advance copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and book market on December 9th or 10th, depending on where you get your books. What we are looking at here is the direct market cover. This is the one that is supplied by Jim Starlin. On the left-hand side is your standard edition cover. That's the cover that's going to be available everywhere, and that one is supplied by Kane. So let's take a closer look at this book, Marvel Team-Up, featuring Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk. That is from issue number 27. The spine of the book, and of course the standard edition spine will look like that, but this is the direct market spine. Conway, Wein, Andru, Kane, Mooney, Volume 1. And then the covers collected in here. What's collected in here? The ISBN and the retail price. The creators aren't on the cover anywhere. It just shows them on the spine. And speaking of the retail price of this one is $100. Underneath the dust jacket, we do have a Silver Age look to the book, the design, I mean. Spider-Man teams up with a lot of amazing friends. However, it's not just Spider-Man. We'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. The creators over here. And, oh my goodness, I didn't realize Ross Andru had been gone since 1993. For some reason, I thought he had passed away in the early aughts. Golly. That's, well, it always saddens me when I look at the bios and more of these creators keep leaving us. The spine of the book here for the underneath the dust jacket. Again, this is what you'll find on the standard edition spine. And then the back, the logo. So the second Spider-Man series kicks off in a really weird way. And we're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk about if those issues, like the Deadly Hands of Kung Fu and the Dog Savage issues, are collected in here. Yes, they are. I'm just going to go ahead and save you the time. Don't worry, they are. They are in here. That's awesome. All right, now let's get it open and talk about the stories found in here. Okay, let's go ahead and get this omnibus opened. Your black end sheets there. And the Marvel Team-Up featuring Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 1, what it collects, and some of our creators, of course. This image right there. And Volume 1. Gerry Conway, Len Wein, Roy Thomas, Steve Gerber are your writers. Pencil by the phenomenal Ross Andru, Kane, Jim Mooney, Don Heck, and Sal Buscema. And inkers like Mike Esposito and Jim Mooney, Frank Giacoia, Steve Mitchell, Don Perlin. Lettering over here by Art Simek and Sam Rosen, John Costanza, and June Braverman. Colorist over here like Stan Goldberg and Glennis Wein at the time, of course. And your editors during this time, Roy Thomas, of course, stepping up to the big-time editor. And here's your breakdown of table of contents, and there are page numbers. There was a book I just did an overview of that didn't have page numbers, but it had a table of contents. That's why I did that. Wonderful introduction here by Gerry Conway. And I say wonderful because he is talking about the beginning of this book, but comparing it to something like the story of Kane and Abel. And why isn't it called Abel and Kane? pretty interesting. And how this came to be, and how he was only 19 years old when writing the stories in here outside of the first issue. Collected in here is Marvel Team-Up 1 through 30, Daredevil 103, so glad that is in here. I think that was also in the Masterworks. Giant Size Superheroes number 1, and Giant Size Spider-Man 1 through 3. The book has a total of 840 pages, and retails for $100. So, we do have some hella talents over here. I do love the introduction by Gerry Conway, also talking about how maybe my African-American characters that I wrote were not really based on people, but what I saw on television. I thought that was a really interesting part of his introduction, too. What is very important to note that I'm sure you saw at the very beginning, because I've explained this book to a lot of people, but just in case you don't know what it means, the Marvel Team-Up book was Spider-Man's second comic book. There was a time when Marvel was only allowed to print so many issues, or so many comics a month. So you have Spider-Man and the Human Torch, and then you have the second issue. So this has to be but no, it's Spider-Man and the Human Torch. As a matter of fact, the first 3 issues are Spider-Man and the Human Torch teaming up. And I guess eventually somebody, maybe an editor, maybe Roy Thomas or Stan Lee said, you know, we've got other characters. Let's make it Spider-Man and someone else. So they got rid of the Human Torch appeal. So in the first one, they fought Sandman. They fought the Frightful Four. They fought Morbius in this one. And by now you have art in here from people like Kane and, of course, Ross Andru over here in this particular issue. And then Gerry Conway taking over the stories. So it started like a team-up book between the Human Torch and Spider-Man. And eventually they wanted to move it into just Spider-Man. Letter pages, by the way, fully intact. And we're going to look at some of those here in a little bit. And Marvel Team-Up number 4 became Spider-Man and the X-Men. So there was a time when Marvel Comics were only allowed to print so many comics a month. That was mainly due to their publisher. And then, of course, when Stan Lee took over, becoming just president and editor-in-chief at one time, like, things started changing in the 70s. So then they started to expand. So this really became the second ongoing series. This featuring the X-Men. By the way, the X-Men in their, like, civilian outfits, not their superhero outfits. Also a weird time for X-Men, because during this time, unfortunately, there were no X-Men comics. So this is one of the few places that you could find the X-Men. X-Men had just become a reprint series, which breaks my heart, but it's true. That's what would happen. So it's X-Men teaming up with Spider-Man against Morbius, and then we have Spider-Man and Vision here against the Puppet Master. There's some really cool stories in here I haven't read in a long time, because I used to have the Marvel Masterworks. I had volumes 1, 2, I think I had 1 and 2. I don't think I've ever picked up the third one. So some of these stories are new to me that I've never read, unless they're X-Men related, of course. There's a wonderful connection here between the Puppet Master and his daughter, Alicia. Now, what's really interesting is that they were not done with the concept. Oh, one important thing that I wanted to show you all, that there was kind of a little bit of foreshadowing happening. I think it's in this scene. Doc Savage is coming. That's so true! I was hoping that he would, and then they did. They put him in here. What was I saying? Oh, yes. So it's almost Spider-Man and Friends, because what ends up happening later on is you'll see the Human Torch take over the book again. But that is because of these giant-size issues. And the Watcher making an appearance here. Oh, this is one of my favorite issues right here. I do remember this one because this is the character known as the Cat, who, of course, appeared in her own comic book named The Cat. And this is Greer Nelson, who, of course, will end up one day becoming the character of Tigra, but this is before her Tigra change, and fighting off against this character named the Man Killer, Katarina Louisa Van Horn. It's an awesome name to remember. And Spider-Man and Iron Man, and you get the idea. So what they wanted to do was showcase a magazine that featured Spider-Man and other characters, usually lesser-known characters, and there were all kinds of loopholes, like it's not really a continuing story. Sometimes there are continuing stories. Like, for example, this one over here. This is Spider-Man and Iron Man. And they're going up against Zarko and Kang. The Zarko and Kang story continues with the team up with the Human Torch. So the Human Torch does come back. So you have this arc with this time travelers that they'll go through different regions of the world, and they'll be time traveling together. You have Spider-Man and the Inhumans showing up through here, but they're still fighting the character of Zarko and Kang. So that kind of is your loophole as to it's a continuing story that features another character, and the way they don't 100% get rid of all the characters, they're still there, they're just not playing a big prominent role. This is the Roy Thomas introduction here for the next few issues, and featuring the Werewolf by Night, that is the character of course, Jack Russell. And by now, Len Wein has taken over the book. The reason that Daredevil and Black Widow 103, because this is again another, interesting that this was a team book at the time, is in here, is because this sets up the events that will come in the Marvel Team-Up number 13, which is Captain America, the return of Nathaniel here. It's Captain America versus AIM and the Grey Gargoyle, so teaming up with Spider-Man. And this is a really interesting story here, why they decided to bring in the Savage Submariner. Because this is to try to get people to go and check out his book. Because during this time, unfortunately, we had lost Bill Everett, who had come back to Namor the Submariner. And unfortunately, due to his untimely death, the sales went down. So, in order to get people to go and check out Namor the Submariner comics, they put him here as the Savage Submariner. So the team-up book sometimes is him and teaming up with somebody, and then sometimes is him fighting somebody. Whoa, Mary Jane, striking a pose, baby. And yes, Ghost Rider. Am I going to go through each and every one of these? The Orb, by the way, showcasing his face. Basilisk, and the this Captain Marvel story, for example, continues into the very next issue. Oh, not only letter pages, but also this poll right here. You all remember polls before, you could do them on your phone? You have to fill this in. That means you had to rip out that page and send it in. What monsters did that? Did you buy 2 copies? If you did, that's awesome. Mr. Fantastic against Mole Man here. And again, wonderful artwork. This is one of my favorite stories because most of the book in here takes place in New York City, which makes sense, right? That is Spider-Man's home. But sometimes he gets to get out of the house and go to the Savage Land. So this is him, drawn by the phenomenal Gil Kane, by the way. And Kazar teaming up against giant dinosaurs. Some wonderful double-page spreads here. Teaming up against this guy, Stegron, right there. And we'll look at those when we look at the binding of the book. But yes, Stegron leading his army of dinosaurs into the city. And that story continues a little bit. This is a follow-up to the Amazing Spider-Man Annual number 2. So it's got the character of Xandu. Again, there's some really good double-page spreads here. And teaming up with Doctor Strange. And then later on, I think they had another team-up in the 90s, if I'm not mistaken. Now, what's going to happen is that we are going to get these giant-sized books. Marvel wanted to start putting out giant-sized books. When they did that, by the way, the mapping of this is different, because I don't remember giant-size Superheroes number 1 being collected in that Marvel Masterworks. I guess it would have been 2. I think they ended it before this was, so it might be mapped different than your actual issue or your Marvel Masterworks, in case you have those. Because immediately after this, we get the Marvel team-up of Spider-Man and Hawkeye, which was in the second one. Maybe it wasn't collected in there at all. I can't remember. It's been so many years. But anyway, what ends up happening, this is the team-up against Quasimodo, is that because Spider-Man was doing these giant-sized Spider-Man and Dracula team-up, so we're having the first 3 collected in here, what Marvel decided to do was actually feature the Human Torch back. So this is a really good story. I really like this one. This is the one with Dracula. Again, Dracula was kind of like in his own corner of the universe, minding his own business, but here comes Spider-Man to mess that up. And of course, they go on this whole world tour. So what happens is that since Spider-Man was in that book, now we have the Human Torch return back to Marvel Team-Up and teaming up with someone else. So Spider-Man kind of does his own thing, and then the Human Torch, this is during the time when he was wearing the red costume, takes over the book, teaming up with Iceman. Force having a friendly fight. Now we have the X-Men showing back up again, but this time in their outfits. Not their graduating outfits, but just their classic outfits. And then we'll have Spider-Man back for the next issue. So this is the one with Brother Voodoo. Again, I think it's the Man-Ape tribe and the Anti-Man right here. And teaming up with Daredevil for that. And then issue 2, yes, the Master Kung Fu is collected in here. 100%. I love that. People were worried that this was not going to be in here. It was just going to be the cover. But no, it is in here. Intact. And because he's in here, there's that one character. That, of course, might be the reason why people were worried. Human Torch takes over the Marvel Team-Up book again. This time around, teaming up with none other than Thor. Now, Spider-Man has also teamed up with Thor. It's going to be very interesting how they collect the second volume of this, too. Jim Mooney now taking over art duties, and then him and the Hulk teaming up in this issue against the Chameleon, Hercules, and I think it's before, yes, right here. There it is, Doc Savage. Now, of course, Doc Savage, well, there's always loopholes when it comes to Doc Savage because he is a character that took place, the stories took place in the 1930s. And it makes me happy that it's actually collected in here, just like it was in the Marvel Team-Up, because people were worried since, like, whenever we had the Marvel Team-Up Epic Collection, it wasn't in there, but it was in the Masterworks, and so was this in the Masterworks. It is collected and fully intact in here. And then back to the Human Torch this time around, teaming up with Iron Man against Infinitus, right? Is that his name? Letter pages. Hey, that image looks familiar. And the Falcon story. And this is the one that wraps up this omnibus. So, basically, this is Spider-Man and Friends for the most part. And then, of course, Human Torch and Friends. It's a great example of why the team-up formula works. Just like they don't hide the fact that they know the Distinguished Competition had a Brave story with a little bit of dash of bold in their circulation. So they knew something like this could work. This is from the Marvel Treasury Edition, giant superhero holiday grab bag, the inside of the grab bag, and then original pages. So something like this worked. And then, of course, later on, we would get the Marvel 2-in-1. So I hope they continue this. The layouts by Kane. And give us a volume 2, because this was such a joy to read, especially these later issues that I never got to read the one with Doc Savage. I've never read that, nor have I read the one. I think some of these I have because, well, if it's X-Men or my loopholes that I always use. I did read this one because this was collected in the Master Kung Fu. But yeah, towards the end here, there were some. I did read this one because these Anti-Man were. You know, they were in the X-Men, so that was always my loophole. Original art, again. And then the reprints right here. This is one by Todd McFarlane, Marshall Rogers, great artist, Brian Stilfreeze. The Marvel Tales reprint of the Marvel Team-Up number 15 with some original pinups by Jay Lee. It's old Jay Lee art. James Fry. These are reprints. Lon Friend, Stuart Eminem, Kirk Jarvinen, and Mark Buckingham. And then the Spider magazine was canceled with issue 6, but the covers would have been these two covers for the next issues. Wow, Brian Bolland. Now, they did use this one for the Omnibus. I'm surprised they never used this for anything. Brian Bolland on Spidey. And your end sheet. So let's talk about the binding and build. 840 pages, sewn binding, and oh my gosh, believe it or not, that eye right there, this is an iMac book. And I review every Marvel Omnibus. And just 95% of the DC Omnis, unless it's something that Dom wants to do. But it's weird to see this transition, because to me it just happens so quick that I don't even notice that we used to have these spines from the iMac printer even less than a year ago that didn't even have eyes like that. Now they do. Not that you need it for something like this. This is a little bit older, right? We are looking at the Silver Age. But even the paper stock, like, if you were to tell me that this was iMac a year ago, I would have been like, no, man, this is a Donnelly printer book. And of course, that eye making double page spreads like this possible. Or even, here, let's look a little bit. There's a lot through these stories here with Kazar. I think there's one back here. Yeah. Okay, this isn't case art, but look at that double page spread. Getting some Ditko vibes right here. And even when you get a little bit further down, so again, very little gutter loss happening. Some bleed through happening, and that's very common in these books. Doesn't matter if it's from Marvel or DC these days. It's just going to happen. It's not like Dark Horse, the big, thick, glossy paper stock that they use for their big, like, colossal editions. I was just reading the, what was it? The Tomb Raider book I did an overview of. I think that probably came out on Monday? So no, I can't. Oh my gosh, I can't keep up with my schedule. Sunday. No, Friday. Whenever it came out. I'm recording this on a Thursday, so it might come out tomorrow. I'm not sure. Yes, it is Thanksgiving. Yes, I'm that dedicated. I love you all. I love doing this. Get to talk about comics. What's the point? Did I have a point? What the hell was I saying? Anyway, dude, it's Marvel Team-Up. This is great. This was a long time coming. And I hope they continue with a volume 2. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this omnibus, don't forget to check out our sponsors.
If you're in Europe and you're interested in buying these books, definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices, flat shipping rate of €12 for all EU countries, emails answered within 24 hours, waltscomicshop.com, and you can use the code nearmintcon at checkout and get free shipping for all EU countries with your first order over €40. That's Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. Ding!
cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget, the CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. In the comments down below, let me know if you plan on picking this up, if you have the Marvel Masterworks. I do believe there were some essentials released. I'm not sure how far they made it, or I'm pretty sure there were some. When I was getting essentials, I thought about getting it, and then I went the Masterworks route. But let me know if you're picking this up, and if you're surprised to see things in here like the Master of Kung Fu comic, and of course, a nice surprise to have Doc Savage in there. But that is it, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Smash that like button on the way out. Hopefully there will be a Marvel Team-Up Omnibus Volume 2 and more of that Marvel 2-in-1. That, as they say, is that.